Welcome to another episode of Regular Guy Barbecue, brought to you by CSC Entertainment. It's day 3 of our brisket barbecue, but as you guys know, this is the second video. Yeah, sorry. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. We're tired.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Really? I get a beer. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. It's really early in the morning. Brisket takes a long time to cook, as you guys know, and we want to feed everybody about supper time today, so we're getting started really early.
As you can tell by how dark it is.
It's pitch black outside. Now, you can see over there, you can see over here we've got our chimney of charcoal getting ready to go for the day, warming that up, so we've got some hot charcoal to start with. And the reason we're doing that is we're going to use the Minion method. Now, we've talked about this in a few other videos, but we'll tell you about it again. Jim Minion was an old school barbecue guy, and the theory that he had is if he took his charcoal and he put it in his grill, unlit, and then he put a little bit of lit charcoal in his chimney on the top, what that would do is as that charcoal touched this charcoal, it would slowly burn down through the pile. So that gives you low and slow, which is what we need today. So we're doing this method. We're going to see how it works. I'm going to try to get over here just a little bit so you can see how we set up our grill. Again, this is our 22-inch Weber grill, we call it King Kong. And we've got our charcoal over here, and there's 120 briquettes over here somewhere in that neighborhood. We've also got our water pan. Now, if you remember in the last video, I talked about how we were going to keep some of our marinade, why we were going to keep it. This is why. We're going to use a water pan, in this case, a garlic and ginger and onion. Yeah, you get it, yeah. We've added some of that the liquid to the pan. So as this pan heats up, it's going to steam. Guess where the moisture is going to go? Right back in our brisket, all right? Okay, so we're going to get things set up here. We're going to get the charcoal in the chimney all nice and hot. We're going to get the brisket out and get it ready. Doctor it all up and get ready for the big dance. All right, so we've taken the time to get our grate all prepared. We've got it scrubbed. We've got it oiled with our avocado oil. We're all ready to go there. Here is our bride of the ball right there. That's our 16-pound brisket minus a little trimming what we did, and it's been in the fridge overnight with the marinade on. You can see how it's kind of sweated out a little bit in the pan. That's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. Our charcoal is just about ready to go on. We just need a minute or so for that to go because it's getting nice and hot in there. We'll have that ready in just a moment. I do apologize for the lighting. As you know, it's like we said, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's dark, so we're doing the best we can with what we got for lighting. All right. So we're going to grab our charcoal chimney, which, as you can see, is burning nice and hot.
Careful doing this at home.
Yeah, kids, please don't do this at home unless you're an adult. If you're an adult, then kids don't worry about it. Now again, as I said, we're going to add that charcoal, that hot lit charcoal, right to the top of our pile. Oh, we got one in the well. Listen to her sizzle. That'll warm that liquid up nicely, huh? There we are. Look at that. Now that'll burn down as it burns down through the layers. That's going to give us our low and slow throughout the day. And we dropped a couple in the basket, but that's all right. That's just for flavor. That won't hurt. Grating. As you also saw, we put some hickory chips in there too. Hickory is going to give us, again, another layer of flavor that we're looking for. So we like flavor. Raise the hands out there. Who likes flavor? Leave it in the comments if you like flavor.
Flavor.
So we're going to put our brisket on fat cat side down. And we discussed that in the beginning video, the first video. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. You'll see what it's about. Fat cap side is going on the down side on the grill.
I hope we got the right one.
We got the right one. There we go. Look at that. All right. Get in there, you big girl. Oh, she's big for this grill. But we're gonna make it. It's gonna work. All right. So there's our brisket on the grill, ready to go. We probably got a little more charcoal than what we need, but she'll burn down throughout the day. Again, part of the Minion method purpose is so you don't have to sit there and continually feed charcoal into your grill to keep your heat up. Now we're going to put our top on here because we're ready to get this cooking. And we've got our bottom grate wide open on this thing. and that's going to give us our air draw to come through. And in order to control the temperature down to what we want, which is going to be in the neighborhood of 250 degrees or so, we're going to use this top grate, or top vent, as our heat control. We want it hotter, we open it up more. We want it colder, close it a little more.
Look at that smoke coming
She's
out
getting
of her.
smoky and ready to roll. We're just going to add a little thermometer right there so we know about 250. We could probably get away with 275 degrees. It's about as high as we want to go. Prefer 250. That's better temperature. Some purists will say even 225 degrees is good. They're not wrong. It's a good place to be. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a tiring day. It's going to be a slow day. Because again, this is going to be 10, maybe even 12 hours to cook. So it's going to be 5 o'clock before we get this done. But we're going to check back throughout the day. Some of the things we're going to highlight is we're going to be using a mopping sauce. We'll make that. We'll show that a little bit later in the video. Hopefully we won't have to add any charcoal or adjust our temperatures too much. But when we do, we'll show that as well. And I won't bore you with every time we stop to mop, because it's going to be about probably every 45 minutes we're going to stop and put a mop on there to keep the moisture level up. With that, the marinade, and our water pan that we put in with our extra marinade that we use should keep the moisture level up real high in this thing. So, follow along today in this video. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe if you like what you see, because we want to have you as part of our family. And if you're a subscriber, coming up in the not too distant future, we're going to be having a giveaway that we're going to do on here. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your imaginary friends, whoever you want. Join us on this channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like what you see going on, mash that notification button because you'll know when we do another video. Every time we post, notification will ding and tell you, hey, guess what? The big dumb fat guy's on the computer again. So, check back. We'll be with you shortly. All right. So, as you can see, it's getting a little bit lighter out, which means it's about time we get to mopping, shall we? There's no floor out here. Oh, well. We're going to make a mop sauce for our brisket. And we're going to start with a little lime juice. And I'm not going to measure anything because I hate measuring. A little lime juice. We're going to add some tart to this, and then we're going to add some sweet, and then we're going to add a little bit of heat. This is apple cider vinegar. You know, we're putting in probably 1/8 to 1/4 of a cup of each, maybe a little less. Worcestershire sauce, Worcester sauce. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of Worcester sauce. Worcestershire. I can never say that. You guys can say it better than I can. Yeah. So this is a little bit of hot sauce. We're just going to add about a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons of that, just because we wanted to add a little zing. Agave nectar. Okay. Now we're doing a maple syrup base to this cook we're doing today with the marinade and everything, but we're going to add a little agave syrup just to add a different flavor to this. It's like honey; it just never ends. It just strings up. There we go. Yeah. And got a little pepper, of course. You know about ground pepper. You like the ground pepper. If you don't have a grinder, buy the regular stuff that's already ground for you. It'll work just fine. I like the grinder stuff. I like my peppercorn a little fresher when I grind it, or when I use it. So I grind it myself. Crushed red pepper flake. Again, just a little bit of heat. So we're going to add a little dab. Will do you.
Little bit of heat.
Little bit of heat. Whoop. Little bit of tanninin. Yeah. A little garlic, because we use garlic in virtually everything. Now we got a couple other spices that we got. Now these, if you remember from some of our other videos, some of those Amish pot things that we got ground celery seed and ground ginger. And I can't open things at all because my hand works out new. There we go. A little ground ginger, maybe a teaspoon. Oh, it smells so good. I love ground ginger.
Hungry already.
And we've got some ground celery seed. Maybe 2 teaspoons of that. Why? Because that's how much fell in. Nothing too extravagant about this. You literally mix it together. You get yourself a mop. You can use a paintbrush. Of course, use a new paintbrush. Don't use a used one.
Finger paint.
Yeah, you can finger paint now. Yeah, I actually use paintbrushes. I go down to my local hardware store and I buy paintbrushes for a dozen for $10. and wash them when I get home, of course, and then hang them up in my smoking shed. And then I use those for putting barbecue sauce on ribs and things like that.
It already smells like a barbecue sauce.
Absolutely. This is just a mopping sauce. Okay, I'm gonna go get the mop. Be right back. I decided to add one more ingredient just because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, whatever it is. Beer. I'm gonna add some beer to our marinade, or to our mopping sauce. And again, this isn't required if you don't like beer, if you don't drink beer, if you don't have beer. Don't worry about that. You don't have to use that. You could use root beer. In fact, root beer would have been a really good choice today, but we're moving forward, not sideways. All right, so we've got an hour or so on our cook over here, so if you'd please come this way. And you can see we're already starting to get some color. You can see if you get close down in there, let me get this out so you can see better. There you go. You can see down in there that we've got some color going. We got a lot of good things going on. You can see our charcoal pile is still really big, no problem. I'm going to turn this guy around. No, I'm not going to do that. I'll turn it around a little while. We do want to turn this, and the reason we're turning it is we're kind of cooking with the point end towards the heat. Flat end's kind of away from the heat a little bit. But we want to get more even cooking, so we're just going to turn it after a few hours, make sure it's good. Mopping, pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. Here's the mop we just made. Put a mop in the water.
So you wring it out.
Wring it out good. Don't forget the soap. This is pretty cut and dry. I mean, well, cut and wet in this case because we're mopping. You're just going to mop some of that sauce in there. And we're going to do this every 45 minutes, maybe every hour, something like that, throughout our cook till we get down in probably the 7 to 8 hour range when we go to our Texas cheat. The fire's cooking a little hotter than we want it to. We've got the vents completely closed. We're going to put our cover back on, let her keep doing her job, add some more hickory along the way to give us a little more smoke for about probably the first 4 hours. We're going to add hickory to it. Smoking it longer than 4 hours could actually theoretically sour your meat. You don't want to do that. You work too hard to get that nice cut of meat. All right, so check back throughout the video. We'll show you the steps along the way. We won't show you every time we mop. We won't show you every time we rotate because it's the same thing over and over again. You don't need to see that. So keep with us. Guys, we're about 4 hours into this cook, maybe 4.5 hours. Just wanted to take a minute to show you how things are going. You can see this thing's really darkening up. I've been cooking about 10 degrees, 15 degrees hotter than what I wanted to, but that's all right. You can see that bark forming on the outside. You know, still see there's a ton of juice on there. Still pretty firm yet, you know, as these things are. These are a tough piece of meat. But what we're going to do right now is, like I told you earlier, is we're just going to take this and flip it because we want to even cook this as best as we can. Now remember, we've got our fat cap side down, so we're going to protect the good parts of the meat up here. And as you know, as we mentioned before, get out of there. No, not for you.
Pointing the puddle out.
We're going to mop this again, and we've been mopping this probably every 45 minutes, maybe every half hour, something like that. You know, every hour is good, whatever you want to do. Whatever you got time for. If you forget a little bit, no problem. Anyway, so that's where we're at so far. We're going to put the lid back on, let her do her thing, and we'll check back with you. All right, gang. Well, we're about 6 hours into the cook on this thing, so I'm going to show you what we got going on. Take a look at that. She's getting a little bit darker than I wanted because it's cooking a little bit faster than we wanted. But the way we're going to cook this today, that shouldn't make any difference at all. But you can see, where's my knife? There it is. All right, just show you this real quick. Take a look at this. You can see how juicy this thing is.
Oops.
Still, yeah. And I can feel the tenderness starting to come into it when I push on it. You know, but it's not there yet. So what we're going to do today with our brisket, and I highly recommend this for anybody doing a brisket, especially if you're a novice like I am, is I'm going to do a Texas cheat on this. And the reasons you want to do this include, but are not limited to, it'll tenderize the meat, it'll help it cook more evenly, and it's going to keep it juicy. Okay? So all those things are important when you're cooking a brisket because these things take so long to cook and they're such a pain in the butt that you want to make sure you do all you can. Holy moly, am I going to be able to pick this thing up or not? She's a heavy girl. Ooh. Oh, and then it's windy, so then the aluminum foil tries to blow away. I apologize for the camera angle there. There we go. Now we got our hands on it. or our fingers on it, or our brisket on it. Take a look at that. You can see lots of good color. That paprika and everything that we added to that gave it a nice color. Now, some people will add butter. Some people will add barbecue sauce at this point if they're going to do a Texas cheat. I'm just going to mop it because I'm trying to keep the flavors, you know, even though we talk about how we add all these things for layers of flavor and everything like that, I'm trying to let the things that we've already put on do the talking. Not to add more things that talk for me because I like to talk. So, we're going to wrap this thing up. And we're going to wrap it twice. Why? Who knows? But before we do, there's one other thing I want to do. You guys know that I'm not big on the technologies and all the things that come in with barbecuing. However, this is just a single probe thermometer that'll tell us what temperatures things get to. Now I'm going to have this set up at 170 degrees, which I don't think we're going to be at yet, and that's not where we want to end. Let's see if we can get this thing to work. I haven't even used it yet, so I'm trying to learn. Alright. So we've got it set for 170 degrees. Looks like we're currently at 163. I'm not so concerned about having the timer go off to tell me when it's at 170 because I don't want to get to 170. You guys know 190 to 200 degrees is where you want to be with your meats when you pull them off. Okay? So we're going to be just using that more to just monitor this thing than we are to actually tell us, hey, it's time for me to be done. You slide it forward. Thank you.
Hard to do with one hand, sorry.
I know, and I appreciate your efforts because you're holding the camera too. So we're going to use that thermometer just because I picked it up on clearance for like 10 bucks. You know, I'm not a big believer in them. Never been a user of them. Always done things by trial and error, mostly error. Learn as you go. And there we go. So that's wrapped up now. I want to show you something on the grill real quick if I can. Take a look how we've still got quite a bit of charcoal built up in there. So that's going to still provide us with plenty of heat. Now that charcoal has been burning pretty hot, and I probably overloaded it a little bit this morning, which is why I'm having trouble with the temperature, you know. But again, we're still learning how to do these kind of things on a Weber grill like this. It doesn't hurt anything. You see the meat looks really good. We're still going to cook it to the same internal temperature. We're still going to use all the same techniques. It's still going to come out fine. We're going to love it. It's going to be great. So, but I also want to show you, you can see how that pan is sizzling down there. Now you think about this. Think about how much juice we put in there to start with, and that thing was still pretty full. Because a lot of that fat rendering, remember how we talked about how we had the fat cap down on this thing? Although that fat won't render all the way down into the meat necessarily and juice it up, that fat's going to drip out as it steams or flavor into our meat, right? Can't really lose with that situation. So, here's our nappy dog going back. Okay, so we've got our guy back on the grill. This thing's magnetic, so it's going to stay right there. No problem. So now, as far as the grill temperature goes, I'm not overly concerned with the grill temperature as I was earlier. Early on during the brisket cook, you want to worry more about the temperature of the grill. You want it to stay relatively consistent. You know, your 250s, your 225, 275, whatever window you're going to cook in, you do it how you do it. That's a kind of a guide though, is about 250. Now that we've gotten it wrapped up, I'm not so concerned about the temperature of the grill as I am the temperature of the inside of the meat. We've got our probe stuck in the thick part of the point. We're going to put the cover back on. We're going to let that charcoal do its job. No more mopping, no more tending, no more smoke needed. We don't need the water pan anymore because we're not going to be adding any more moisture. We've got all the moisture in that meat we need, as you can see. So we're going to do this for, it's probably going to take about an hour to 2 hours to get it where we want it, which is about 190, 195 degrees. Once we get it to that point, we're going to come back on, show you the next step. All right. So we've been doing our Texas cheat for a couple of hours now almost. It's been about an hour and a half, close to 2 hours, something like that. You take a look at this little thermometer that we bought, this cute thing. She's flashing at 201 internal temperature. I would like to see it at 190 or above. We're above. This is cooking a little faster. Again, like I said, the grill was running about 10 degrees warmer than I wanted it to. Internal temperature seems to be fantastic. I'm going to go with it and see what happens. The worst thing we can do is we can put it back on later, right? All right. We actually are going to put it on again later. I'm going to show you that in a little bit later on during this video. For the meantime, let's take a look at what we got going. This is always the tricky part that people get nervous about, because if you want to have your brisket done the way you want it, you want to look at it, but you don't want to open it up and unwrap it until it's done. So you got to have it done, but you got to unwrap it. You got to have it done. Nah, it doesn't work out. So what we're going to do, we're going to do something else. We are going to wrap this thing up and let it rest. We got just a little towel here, a little dirty towel, doesn't matter, you can touch the food. There goes our brisket. We're going to wrap this up in this old dirty towel. Towel's been used for barbecuing, right? And we're going to put this in the cooler. So why are we putting it in the cooler? Because the cooler lid's closed, that's why. Thank you. That camera person's so helpful. This will allow this meat, even though we've got it off the heat, to continue to cook. And we can monitor it by putting that out there. Isn't that a cute thing to have? I never used one before. We're going to find out how it does, right? So we're going to let that rest in there for at least an hour, maybe even 2, depending on how fast the temperature drops off. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Give it another hour or 2, see what happens. Well, guys, it's been about an hour and a half or so since we put our brisket in the cooler. And if you come on over to the cooler here, you can see this thing's still sitting at 198 degrees. It shot all the way up to 205 before it started to slowly go down. So we know this thing is cooking. We know it's done. We're going to take it out. We're going to see what we got. And my good buddy, my good neighbor Abe is here. He's kind of checking out what we're doing, because this guy can cook. This guy can cook. So we like to share our results with Abe as well. So.
Smells fantastic.
I just bought this thing for like $10. Amazing.
Yeah, I got one of those on my smoker too. They're sweet.
Well, I don't usually use stuff like that because I never was educated enough to use fun tools, but
sure.
I bought that thing for cheap. Had one button to push.
Awesome. Yeah, those things are fantastic. Oh, look at the bark on that.
Okay,
it's
now,
beautiful.
before we go and pull this out of here, I'm going to tell you right now that the dogs are going to go ape shizzles.
Look at the juice on that.
So as you can see, this is our flat end and our point end. Okay. Now a lot of guys will separate these before they carve them. I don't know. I'm not really that crazy about separating them. Let's see what we got, shall we? Oh, by the way, I picked up a new carving knife in case the other one wasn't big enough. Let's see what we got. Tougher than a $2 steak. Either that or this isn't very sharp. Let me grab another knife that's actually realistic. Greenie, YouTube. I think that's just about where I want it because it's not dropping on the ground, falling apart. Come on.
Thank you.
See what you think. All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Very good.
So I'm going to show you something. Usually when you carve your brisket, you want to know that it's truly done properly. If it folds like that, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Anybody else want to sample?
Nope.
Come on, grab. Go ahead, grab a piece. It's really hot. It's 198 degrees inside. So.
Thank you.
Hey, but thanks for coming over, buddy.
All
right, sounds good, bud. Do I do brisket right, gang?
Yeah.
Is it all right?
Go ahead.
We're gonna carve this thing up, but you guys probably know how to do all that already. You know, and like I said, I don't do nothing fancy. A lot of guys will separate the point from the flat. You know what? It's meat. It's barbecue. It tastes good. We're gonna eat it. We're not gonna look at it and have it fancy. I'm not all about all that fancy stuff. Them guys that put it in the box and paint them to look good. We're just a regular guy doing regular barbecue. Thanks so much for joining us today at this video. If you liked the video, please hit the like button.
Mash that notification button so you know when we come on again and put up another video. And don't forget to subscribe, because like I said, coming up in the next few months, we're going to be announcing a giveaway for any subscribers that we have. You yourself could win. Thanks all.